boiler's finished early middle next year.
Well, not quite, but quite a lot of the same.
Good morning and welcome to Aberystwyth today. My name is Stuart Williams and I'm Mr. Nobody today really. I'm just the hired help, me and David. I'm going to be looking after the proceedings today.
O ran Menter Mynyddoedd y Cambrian, on behalf of the Cambrian Mountains Initiative, we're very pleased to be here today. It's a lot to say that sometimes it takes one person, mae'n cymryd un person, it does take sometimes one person to move things on, to get a team together, to get a community together, partners, and in the case of this organisation, directors as well. But there are people here from so far away. Other railways are supporting this railway, and I think you see yourselves all as a family of railways providing wonderful opportunities for visitors and communities and local residents, but also celebrating the heritage of the steam age.
Very warm welcome to you all to the new museum. I'd first like to say my thanks really to the late Peter Rampton. Peter established the Phyllis Rampton Narrow Gauge Railway Trust as a charity. And he funded that charity as well. And then subsequently, the charity acquired the Vale of Rheidol Railway, and the railway became registered as a separate charity. So my great thanks to Peter. Sadly, he died a few years ago, and he can't be with us today, but without Peter, none of us would be here. I'd also like to thank his sister, Anne Archer. When Peter died, his estate passed to his sister, and she very kindly and generously donated most of Peter's estate to the trust and to the railway. So a great thanks to Anne Archer.
Today is the culmination of 8 years of work to bring all these various facets together and to create a new station, a new carriage shed, and this unbelievably good building that we're stood in now. It's really quite superb.
Well done. Shall I do the honours?
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it. Good.
Yeah, you'll find it.
Hello again, and welcome to Glamorpwth. You join us on our A bit of a special weekend this weekend. It's been 2 years since we broke ground on the Mountaineer project and worked on site at Glenputh, so we've decided to take advantage of the bank holiday and have a 4-day working party. So you see us actually on day 3 of that. Since we last spoke to you, work has accelerated quite a bit, because as you can see, the boiler is now not on the frames. We finished taking the tubes out and then make sure the boiler was free from the chassis and lifted it off. Dylan Ham and his team kindly brought up this wagon so we could put the boiler on, and then a contractor, a shot blaster from Pwllheli, came along to shot blast the boiler to remove all the dirt and rubbish that was on it. We'd photographed all the thickness testing measurements that we'd written on the boiler as a record, and they've been sent to the boiler inspector. So we shot blasted the boiler. Jonathan Wally has had a look at it. He's been in contact with the boiler inspector. He has engaged a external non-destructive testing company to come and do some work on it. So far, he's looked at the welds on the boiler. They've all passed, apart from a few little defects that I think have been there since the boiler was built, and they're quite happy with that. We've still got the stays to ultrasonic, and we've had a little bit of repair work on the front tube plate where it had been nicked when we were taking the tubes out. That has been welded up by one of the railway's coded welders. But the news for the boiler is incredibly good. So based on the thickness test that we've done and the examination of the welds, at the moment, subject to further changes when we look at the stays, we're looking at just a retube in terms of the pressure vessel itself, which is all the small tubes and the 2 superheater flues. We'll then probably add some plates on the outside of the barrel to join up to the chassis in the centre, a third of the way in each end of the barrel, to bear the weight down on more centrally on the chassis. So they'll need welding in, and then we'll get a new superheater header, superheaters, spark arrestor and ash pan, which I will show you our scale model of in a minute, because that's been designed by our volunteer Gwion Clark, who's studying in Newcastle, some engineering type degree. So we're looking at this boiler is definitely going to be reused, and I can actually reveal to you today that, as I said to the members of the society last night, in fact, because it's the AGM weekend, I have spoken to Boston Lodge. We have a provisional slot, and I say provisional because it depends how work goes over the summer, for the boiler to go into Boston Lodge this winter for work to begin on it. And for that to be secured, as well as Boston Lodge having space, we need to have funding in place. Now, we have quite a sizable sum of around £60,000 in the kitty so far, and we wish to keep that for doing the chassis, which I'll speak to you next. But to get the boiler all hydraulically tested with all the bits on it that I said before, which would make it ready to have a fire put in it, this will cost £60,000, and that is only going to be possible if people donate money to us. So we have a wonderful team here at Team Mountaineer, lots of volunteers who come very regularly, monthly and several times a year. We have the ability to do small fabrication jobs, but all the technical stuff such as coded welding and machining is what's going to take all the funding. Now is the time that we would like to ask yourselves to help us support with that element, so we can get this booked in and hopefully by early 2025 have a boiler that is ready to go. So quickly before we talk about the chassis, so as I said, the boiler provisionally to go down to Boston Lodge end of this year if we have funding. This is our mock-up model of the ash pan, which has been drawn up by Gwion Clark and designed. One of our young volunteers. He's also a volunteer fireman on the Ffestiniog Railway. And so this is the first concept design. He's done a CAD design of it as well. We're already actually really onto version 2 with this. It's going to be slightly different, and we're also going to move a few things to allow us to make the side doors that you see at the front a little bit longer, so they fit on the side of a, well, take up a whole side of a wheelbarrow and make it very easy for the crews to empty the ash out, and also to allow the work staff to drop anything out the fire, like fire bars or bits on the ash pan, to make the 14-month inspections a bit easier for them to do. So yes, right, to move on to the chassis. So the idea with this, we have some wooden mock-ups for frame extensions and stuff to do on the back of the cab. There's drawings for the boiler there, but we're going to tidy all this up and probably have the reverser mounted on the frames rather than on the side of the boiler, just to make setting up the valves a bit easier. We're also looking into moving the pony truck pivot slightly further forward to allow the bigger doors that I spoke about with the ash pan. And the frames, condition-wise, we've yet to do crack tests in the corners, but they're looking pretty good. I'm informed by Dylan Ham that they were all the bottom end was done on this engine about 2 years before it was withdrawn in 2006. So it will all come apart, it will all be looked at eventually, but we're aiming at the moment to keep it all mobile, so when the time comes to take it to Boston Lodge, which we're hoping to be the end of 2025, subject to funding, of course, we can take it down the railway very slowly rather than hiring a high-ab and having to lift it up and all that sort of expense. But we're planning the 2 black items there, the diaphragm plates, as I said, with the boiler barrel. We're thinking of adding those back in, just so we take some of the weight of the boiler spread across the whole engine rather than just at the back end. We've taken the pistons and the piston valves out, and so we can measure the bores and see if they need to be rebored or if we need different rings and such like. And the volunteers are spending quite a long amount of time cleaning up all the years of gunk and grime that are on the frames. So when we do get the go-ahead for it to go into Boston Lodge, we're only paying for all the specialist labour of lifting things, pulling things apart and remachining things, rather than paying members of Boston Lodge to clean bits of stuff up, which is the desired thing. But yes, so this, if the boiler's finished early middle next year, we need that done, because for the work staff to set up the chassis, we want the weight of the boiler on the chassis. So then all the solid parts of the chassis will then line up, and we can make it as true as we possibly can, or refit fitted bolts and things like that. But we're very hopeful with this. We haven't found anything nasty. We don't predict to find anything nasty. We can do various tests on the bits of the frames as it is, with dye penetrant testing, as they did with the welding, and so we're just working through taking bits off that we can work on elsewhere at the moment. So it's all coming apart. I've got a meeting coming up with Jonathan Wally, Dylan Ham, and probably Paul Lewin at some stage in the next few months, just to decide which route we're going down with things, and how exactly we do them. So we're not sort of in an area now where we don't know what we're going to find. We know what we've found. We're just working out which way we're going to deal with it. As I said, we've had a working 4-day working party, but actually it's been a whole week for some people working on the Mountaineer, because as you can see, the tanks and the cab have been shot blasted and have had a protective coat of primer put on them. This is to stop them rusting, and also it means it takes all the paint off and filler and anything else that was on them, and it allows us to see whether what condition the metalwork's on them. The tanks, we're not quite sure if we can date how old they are. Some people think they're originals from when it was built. Potentially more likely they're the ones that may have been fitted in France, because they've got French stamped filler lids on them. But either way, they're in pretty good condition. On one there's several holes. There's one hole on another. But I think these can be very nicely patched up and used again, because they are historical. They're not perfect, but they contain a lot of history, like there's pitting marks where a different number plate was on the engine when it was in France and things like that. But we've moved them around on a pallet truck. They've not crumbled to bits, and I think they can go back on the engine. Likewise with the cab, most of this probably dates from 1984, although I presume bits of it may have dated from when it was first rebuilt, when it arrived at the railway. And we've set this up again, I think as I spoke to you last time, with the backhead cladding in, just to see how things would fit. And what we'd like to do, if any of the loco crew watch these videos and you're on the quarryman turn out of Glamorputh, if you get any time, if you can come along into this side of the workshop and have a stand on the footplate and see what you think of it, we would be very interested to hear from you what your views on it are, given that hopefully one day you'll be firing this. So we can then maybe make some changes now before we start putting the engine back together, and make some modifications and see if it would any helpful suggestions that would make it a bit easier to fire. Gwion again has taken some measurements of the bunker for those who think the coal supply might be a bit limited, and I've now, earlier on this year, I've had a meeting with Paul Lewin and John Wally, and it will now be coal-fired as far as I'm concerned, unless they tell me otherwise. And we've got some greedy rails in the back that we've mocked up in wood, and we propose to have those with some bars on the windows to increase coal capacity. But without those, Gwion has measured that we can get 1.1 metric tons of coal in to the bunker without where the shovel plate is and these. So we're aiming probably for about 1.5 tons, and if we get the chassis and cylinders sorted, that they're as economical as they can be with steam, it should be able to make it up the line with a 7-car train with enough coal capacity. And yeah, so as I said before, we have a price for the boiler, £60,000. We have money already in the kitty, but we'd effectively like to double that as much as we can. And the more money that we can raise, the quicker we can get the Mountaineer back to steam. At least the only thing holding us back then is the capacity for work at Boston Lodge. So that's down to yourselves. So as always, you can support us through the donate online through the Ffestiniog Society. We have merchandise. Thank you very much for everyone's support so far, but now we'd like to ask if we can have some more support in the fundraising department, and then hopefully in the next couple of years, if all that goes to plan, we should have the Mountaineer steaming back up the Vale of Ffestiniog again.
be.